Hey guys, Coach Shelby here, and I have a special guest today, one of my biggest influences in the coaching realm in many ways, in many different areas, and that is Mr. Pat Rigsby. Pat, welcome to the call.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, man. Pretty excited to spend some time with you.
Good. So real quick background for those listening that don't know a lot about you. You obviously come from a sports background. You're a baseball guy yourself. But then you got into the fitness industry, kind of blended the love of sports and fitness, put it together. On the back end, you've actually ended up doing a bunch of branding and a bunch of business stuff for a lot of fitness, sports, and whatnot entities. So I wanted to bring you on the call to talk a little bit about branding, and in particular how basketball coaches or coaches in general can bring themselves kind of full circle and use that business approach from a branding standpoint to perhaps build some team identity and, help use that to kind of leverage their strengths. So first, maybe you'll give a quick little background on yourself and then we can delve into it a little bit more.
Yeah, I had the good fortune to become a head college baseball coach at the ripe old age of 23. Now, that's been a while ago. And obviously, you don't get a head coaching job at a university when you're 23 if it's a very good job. So, so I had to kind of build that program from the ground up. It had never had a winning season, in school history, right? Very limited resources, smallest budget in our conference, one of the smallest budgets in the country for the division that we were playing in. Just nothing that made it an attractive job other than it was a job. Within 5 years, we finished fifth at the World Series, led the country in hitting multiple times, actually had the highest batting average nationwide, all divisions over the window that I was a head coach, and really kind of built a regionally dominant, nationally competitive program. And that really kind of shaped a lot of the things that I do in business even today. 23 years later from when I got my start, it was the precursor to me getting into the fitness and sport performance business, first as a local business owner, then as an advisor, a coach, a franchisor. I founded 2 franchise organizations, including what was at the time the largest sports performance youth fitness franchise in the United States. Was the owner, CEO of, at the time, the largest youth fitness sports performance certification organization in the United States. And honestly, all of it kind of was an evolution of the things that I learned about, building a program, designing, kind of our own brand at the collegiate level. And I've even turned around since then and worked with some private organizations and even, a couple collegiate programs, including Dallas Baptist University, which I think is kind of the epitome of a program that kind of punches above its weight class. They're only Division I in baseball, yet in the most recent rankings on division1baseball.com, they had what was listed as the 28th best program in the country. They've been to 4 straight regionals, hosted a regional, been to a super regional, and they're doing this with 4,000 students, only one Division I sport. They've built a brand that really stands out. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. So hopefully some of the stuff we talk about today, I think, carry over. It doesn't matter if you're, a collegiate coach, a high school coach, a summer league coach. How do you build a program? How do you build a brand identity?
Right. And I think that's exactly, how I view it and what how I look at things and what I kind of view from my end is regardless whether you're at the collegiate level, you're at the high school level, even going back on down through like middle school, youth, AAU, all of that. Really, the team is an extension of the coach, and you hear so much about that from a leadership standpoint and what the coaches want and kind of what they build. So on that note, branding as a whole, what is it? How do you view it from an athletic standpoint? And how do you really feel it shapes the team and shapes the program? What as a coach, if you're listening to this, should you look at in your own program as far as developing your brand? What thoughts should go through your brain?
So when I think of brand, the first thing that we think of that comes to mind are like these big corporate brands or the aesthetics, the logo, the color scheme, those sorts of things. And that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm speaking more to what do you want to be known for? How can people, how can the outside world define you? How do the people that belong to the organization, what do they feel like they're a part of? How do they feel like they're different? And if I trace this back, I'll tell you where I started to think about this, and I think it'll have a lot of relevance is, when I took over the collegiate baseball program, there was no sense in me looking at just the most successful programs out there. It would have been like a major league team, like saying, okay, well, I'm just going to study the Yankees and how they became the Yankees. Well, if you're a small market team, you probably can't follow that same roadmap, right? So I try to figure out like how do people, kind of play above their circumstances? How do they achieve? And so, I looked at, how did small college programs, the baseball programs like Marietta College, the football programs like Mount Union, before that dating back, even football programs when we're talking Division I, how did BYU win a national championship and have a Heisman Trophy winner, even though, it was a relative unknown on the football landscape 10 years prior? How did Loyola Marymount become a nationally recognized program in basketball back, in the 80s? Those were the things that I was trying to dissect, the things I was trying to learn from. And I came across a quote from Steve Spurrier, of all people, right? And this was when he took over the program at Duke. And so, before he was at Florida, he was the head football coach at Duke. And he said, look, you got to be better or different, and we are never going to be better. We're never going to beat them at their own game. And so that's when he kind of started throwing the ball all around the field, something that had never really happened, in the ACC before. And Duke's good. It parlays itself into him going to Florida as the head coach and having a pretty dominant program. So, I looked at that and said, I've got to understand how we apply that here. And so, well, how can we show up differently? We're not going to beat people head to head in experience. We're not going to beat them in resource. We played at a city-owned park. We didn't have a nice facility. It was in a kind of a rundown city, which, had been very much a Rust Belt type city that was economically depressed. Bad budget, just everything was limited. So I'm like, well, we're not going to beat them in any of those categories. So what can we win at? So we looked at, okay, what do we want to be known for? Well, we can go out there and approach recruiting differently than other people. We can approach the way that we, compete in the game differently than other people. We can approach player development differently than other people. And that will become kind of what we're known for. We're going to be a team that, I wanted to be the equivalent of kind of the first iteration of the spread offense in football, kind of, hey, we're going to take the old school Loyola Marymount approach in basketball. We're going to go, hoist up a shot every 10 seconds.